Basically, I think we can sort of intuit that the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund has realised that esports isn't a great investment. Who knew? This was the story from Cecilia D'Anastasio over at Bloomberg these days. Saudi Arabia's savvy games to invest more in mobile after Monopoly Go. There was a strange misinterpretation around the story, but I guess we'll get into that. But basically, I'll just read you the article. It's only short, as you can see. After seeing the major success of its mobile game Monopoly Go, Saudi Arabia's Savvy Games Group plans to invest more in mobile game development and acquisitions, according to the company's chief executive officer. Savvy, wholly owned by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, agreed to buy mobile game maker Scopely for $4.9 billion last April, the same month the Monopoly title was released. Since then, the online iteration of the famous board game has grossed $2 billion in revenue. And I want you to think about those numbers. So you put $4.9 billion into something, and a year later it's already generated $2 billion in revenue. And that is one game in the publisher's catalog. And so I don't know why people are out there fucking playing Monopoly, spending money on Monopoly. I guess obviously there's some sort of microtransaction aspect to it. I haven't even looked into it. But what does it say, right, that you can generate $2 billion in revenue for having some sort of gacha Monopoly game, and esports is just hemorrhaging money? Has anyone actually played this version of Monopoly? Let me see. Actually, I want to have a look at the features of the game. High rated Monopoly, like you've never seen it before. Attack, build, collect, roll, steal, and win. So I'm guessing it's not just Monopoly then, right? But anyway, that game generates $2 billion of revenue in a year, right? So if I'm Saudi and I've invested in esports, and I'm looking at what is fucking earning money and what is losing money, it's a no-brainer at this point. And so you can see now Scopely will form the tip of the spear for Savvy's investment strategy, CEO Brian Ward said in an interview this week. That means more money for the mobile game publisher, which already operates 8 development studios and may involve adding a genre-leading title to Scopely's roster. Savvy announced in 2022 that it had $38 billion in funding to help turn the oil-dependent nation into a hub for the video game industry. The company has since invested $8.3 billion of that. We're not in a rush to deploy all the capital within a certain time frame, Ward said, adding that his top priority now is enabling Scopely to do what they do best. Scopely spent nearly $500 million on marketing alone for Monopoly Go, which is more than the Sony Group Corporation spent developing Spider-Man 2, a hit console game. We have a short recoup horizon for that spend, Scopely CEO Javier Ferreira said in an interview at the game's developer conference last month. We used it to achieve an audience of 10 million daily active users, and we got the product to a revenue scale that I don't think any product in mobile games in the West has achieved. Ferreira added that since the acquisition, Savvy has been hands-off with its day-to-day operations. Savvy also has 2 of its own games in development and is taking a mobile-first approach. And this is where you realize, by the way, the mobile game space is just a license to fucking print money. And everyone's pivoting to mobile. I've heard ESL are going to be doing more mobile tournaments moving forward. They're going to use that to basically like offset the money they're going to get from that. They're going to use to offset other mainstream esports things. Remember Bobby Kotick, Activision Blizzard? Bobby Kotick said when he was still at the company, R.I.P. Goblin King, he said, we're a mobile games first company, and you understand why. They own Candy Crush. Did you see that story in the news this week where a fucking priest stole $40,000 in parishioner donations and spent it on Candy Crush? He was the ultimate whale, a whale from God. And Call of Duty Mobile as well. Yeah, and think about what they've done with the design of Diablo and where that's at, and 3 separate currencies and all this fucking stuff. It's like the mobile gaming space for some reason just makes so much money. It's like gamers just don't discern. They just don't care. They just want the game on. They want the game on their phones. They're playing it at work, and if there's any like bottleneck of time or anything like that, they'll just put money into it. And they just make so much money, these games. Not all of Savvy's investments have been as immediately lucrative. An early focus on esports has raised questions. So many questions as the industry struggles to attract audiences and sponsors. The company put over $1.5 billion into acquisitions to form ESL Faceit Group, which will operate Saudi Arabia's Esports World Cup this summer with a record-breaking $60 million prize pool. ESL Faceit laid off 15% of its staff in February, which Ward said was due to redundancies. He said Savvy is done making large investments in esports. Now, that line got interpreted by a lot of people that, Savvy, they're done with esports. They're pivoting away from esports. It's like, no. You can see they've still got $30 billion to spend. They're saying they're done with big acquisitions, but, I mean, they might still spend money on it. And don't forget, they've got to bankroll the fucking Esports World Cup, right? The Esports World Cup, my understanding is it's all coming, the finances are all coming from the same place, bar sponsors from Qiddiya, which is also sponsored by the Public Investment Fund. We got this layer cake of conflict of interest going on. But it's also quite instructive, by the way, because that $60 million, if you've seen the branding that they're going with, one of the ways they're advertising that $60 million repeatedly in all of their branding and all of their marketing is they are saying it's life-changing money. This is the phrase you have to keep using if you want to advertise the Esports World Cup in the way they approve of and play nice as a partner. Here it is. Life-changing prize money. Life-changing prize money. It says it on the website. Here's the thing. The $60 million, the bulk of that is going to go into Dota because they now essentially run the Dota circuit and they want to have a tournament that eclipses TI. So, life-changing prize money. But actually, if you look at the divide, $3 million is going into Mobile Legends Bang Bang. Whereas the women are only getting $500,000. But hey, at least you get to play. What's interesting, of course, is ordinarily in the media, if there was 2 tournaments in the same game and the men's prize pool was 6 times more than the women's, there'd usually be outrage, wouldn't there? Do you remember how the games journalists used to get outraged about that, like every 6 months? Why are men in esports making more money than women? Well, here you go, guys. Have at it. Have at it. Look how much more they're making. Look at the sexism on display. Oh, what, you don't want to touch this one? Why's that, guys? How very interesting. StarCraft 2 gets $1 million out of nowhere. I don't know what Ren Sport is. I guess that's racing, sim racing. That gets $500,000. Right? Now, as I said, the bulk of the prize fund is going to go into Dota. And you're probably in a world where CS is going to get less than Mobile Legends Bang Bang. The breakdown of the prize pool is just going to be like 30 million Dota and everyone else can peck shit with the hens. But anyway, life-changing money, life-changing money. That's what they keep saying. It's life-changing money. But it isn't really, is it? $60 million. I hate to say it like this because it really shows how far we've come in esports. But actually, it's kind of trash, actually. Like $60 million if you're sports washing, it's not all that. You definitely need to raise your game on that one because the CS prize pool is going to come out to pretty much like a normal prize pool, isn't it? It's going to be like 1.5, 1.25, something like that, maybe 2 million. We've had those before. They're not even sports washing all that hard. Kind of lame. Thought you had money. Disappointed, Saudi. Not as disappointed, though, as I was with this reaction, which you're going to see lots of this. Now, as I've talked about, I'm not going to call out people to be mean or to settle scores. I'm only going to do it when I think it's kind of necessary, and I'm going to try and avoid punching down, maybe even punching sideways. I'm definitely going to punch up from now on, right? Because it's easy to like poke fun at people. You know, it's easy to put Chad's picture on a Saudi Arabian flag and then not think about it and then have to see him in real life. And he goes, do you know how many people have threatened to kill me because you did this thing? And you go, oh, yeah, that sucks. Sorry, mate. Wasn't thinking. I was just doing it for the lols because I was upset because I caught feelings because you wouldn't meet me in Malta. I'm not going to do that anymore, basically, right, is the long and the short of it. But I am going to put somebody that I've known a long time kind of on blast now. So let me just frame it by saying it's because I want the industry to be better. I don't want anyone to, you know, harass or do any bad stuff. It's not done with malice. It's just done with genuine disappointment. So I've known Sam Matthews from Fnatic for a long time. I wouldn't say we were close, but I was there. Hooksy. I was there watching Fnatic have a dynastic run in 1.6. I was there when you had the best team in Source, the first real dynastic team in Counter-Strike Source that we had. I watched you go into League of Legends and do really well. And I watched you also go on to have a CSGO team that won majors. Fnatic, for me, we used to be one of the premier fucking esports orgs, unprecedented success, a really cool brand that was run by an endemic OG that had been fucked with by a bunch of external forces and somehow managed to still be standing after all of that time. I have nothing but respect for Sam Matthews, but I lost a lot of respect. Not all respect, it's not the HLTV meme, but I lost a lot of respect based on this tweet, and it prompted me to do one of my rare public tweets that I do now, and you can see for yourself, because if you don't follow me on Twitter, then you would have missed it. But founder of Fnatic here, replying to the Esports World Cup $60 million life-changing prize money tweet, and he said, "Esports is dead, long live esports." And obviously this is a reference to what he's doing there, in case you're not really aware, is he's saying like, oh, everyone said esports was dead, but look at all this cool stuff. And because it's Fnatic, and he's always had, you remember when I did that story way back when I proved that actually G2 had put money into Fnatic and given them a loan, that if they defaulted on the repayments, then Jens Hilgers was going to be able to take over the Fnatic brand, and it created a conflict of interest, and Riot had to get involved and issue a, because I'm keeping motherfuckers honest out here. It's like Fnatic have struggled financially, but because of where they've been positioned and who they're in with, and how tenured they are as an org, they're always going to have these opportunities to be part of all this Saudi bullshit. And so esports is dead, long live esports. Well, listen, I don't believe any OG esports fan could think this version, this zombified, hollowed out, soulless corporate version of esports is good in comparison to what we lost. So for me, esports is still kind of dead. We're a long way from getting back to the good times, and we've got fundamental problems that we really need to address, which again we're going to talk about in a moment. This is going to be a long segment encompassing a lot of kind of Saudi news, but I was very disappointed with this, I do have to say. And I was very disappointed with some of his reactions as well, because obviously this got called out, and I do apologize for putting your tweet here, but I will say this is just a member of the general public, and he has a Fnatic, Fnatic League of Legends thing in his bio. He's a fan, okay? You can see there, mostly here to follow the LEC Fnatic win, and yet he still took Sam Matthews to task, so a lot of respect. He said, "Can you say anything about your personal and business stance to sports washing and what countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar do to draw attention away from the human rights violations they commit?" And it's not every day you see an esports fan actually plant the flag and say, look, this sports washing stuff is bad and human rights violations are bad, and you're working now as a partner with people, that are doing these things. And yeah, all right, he spelt Qatar wrong. Come on, give him a break. He's doing the right thing here, guys. Let's be better than that. Better than a spelling error. And Sam Matthews replied with, and it's baffling. It's almost stupefying, because it's so like, think about what you're saying. And he said, oh, and apparently he was spelt right in Dutch. Well done, Jerky. Stand up for the man. We need a world that brings people closer together, not further apart. Sports and entertainment is universal since the dawn of the Greek Olympiads. But it's this first part, isn't it? We need a world that brings people closer together, not further apart. And I agree with that. But I don't think Saudi Arabia agrees with that. I don't think the new business partners agree with that. I actually think they're driving people apart by being steadfast in their own prejudices. So I did a bit of moral grandstanding, virtue signaling they call it. I like to do a virtue signal every now and then. Keeps me on my toes. And I said, being gay, bi and trans predates even that. And guess what your new business partners think about it? This tweet did generate the type of responses you would expect. There was a lot of yas and slay queen, which is obviously why I did it. I do like to be told to slay and be called queen. I'm big on that. Now, I'm the woke virtue signaler. But a lot of people, obviously, as well, were going, nope, trans people didn't exist until modern America. And, you just can't really have a sort of conversation around that. Because it's like, well, that's not true, is it? And there were globo homo accusations as well. You can go look at the tweet if you have a Twitter account. You can see what was there. Long drawn out conversations about the modern American rainbow mafia and whether or not that would make my tweet, which is entirely historically accurate or not. And then obviously lots of allegations about me being a sort of person that pushes the globo homo agenda, which is just increasingly something I'm accused of these days, which is hilarious. But anyway, I sort of followed it up with another tweet because you have to understand that there was a ton of money raised on the basis of, we want gaming to be more inclusive, we want it to be more progressive. We had fucking people saying we've got to get more women into games and we need spaces for women to play games. And I'm like, listen, I support all this shit, so fine. Okay. But the problem is you went and raised all this money to do all these things, and now you're working with people for whom that is antithetical. I will say, because I'll always admit when I'm wrong, there are a number of women's tournaments at this event. And I think that's great, and it's unexpected for me. The women will, of course, be scrutinized for dress code, but they're not going to require chaperones or any of that stuff that they have historically. I will say, though, and we're going to get to this, if you're a trans competitor, maybe skip it. Just maybe give it a miss, because they're still not guaranteeing your safety. Just putting that out there. And we know in recent years what they do is they arrest you under the guise of it being cross-dressing laws, inappropriate dress. That's what they do. So I'd give it a miss. But hey, women, biological women, you're safe. Trans women, we can't guarantee your safety. And we're gonna have these women's tournaments, but we're ultimately going to exclude trans women from those tournaments. So it's like, okay, kind of seems fucked up. Anyway, I followed it up. I said, I forget, guys, is esports for everyone or not? You all raised a lot of money repeating that mantra from 2016 onwards. What changed? Now, Sam Matthews didn't reply to that. And no one really did from the industry. Because you'll notice whenever they do these events and make these announcements, all of the orgs are all there, all suckling at the fucking Saudi Arabian money teat, and they can't square it with everything else they've ever done. They can't square it with the performative Pride Month stuff. They can't square it when an executive has gone, I can't believe this outrageous sexism. It's like, you ever seen a burqa, homie? Do you know why they're there? So, I mean, we can get into it, but you don't want to get into it, because getting into it is going to be very exclusionary for you. It's going to cut you out of a big slice of cash, and you just won't do it. Whereas I will. And you will notice, I don't mind flying close to the sun on these topics. I don't support any belief system that creates two tiers of citizenry, essentially, along gender lines, or sexuality, or anything else. Just let people fucking do what they want to do. The state should have no remit to police any of that, let alone literally police it and put you in fucking prison. And any government that does that is fucking wrong, and its people shouldn't tolerate it. Very clear. I'm very consistent on it across the board. Not just in the countries where it's safe to protest about these things. And if it's going to cost me money, I'll still say it. But no, nobody wanted to come along for this ride. Obviously, GG for all, Esports for all, Pride Month esports, gamers, all these little initiatives that you do, you invalidate them when you take money and promote Saudi Arabia. And as I said, on the day, right, because this is what they all say privately when you talk to these team owners and all these people that are taking money from Saudi, they all say the same thing. I've met a member of the Saudi Arabian royal family, or I've met a high-ranking Saudi Arabian executive, and they say, listen, if you give us 10 years, we'll have pride parades in Riyadh. I'll believe it when I see it. But on the day you do, fine, great. Welcome to the rest of the fucking civilized world. And then I'll shut the fuck up. And I'll talk about, because ESL will have probably partnered with fucking North Korea or something by then. So, I'll still have something to gripe about. It just won't be you guys anymore. So anyway, that bummed me out. And then what really especially bummed me out, and I didn't get a lot of time to talk about this at the time. So this is kind of outdated news, but it's still relevant and it's still worth talking about. We've got this consistent issue that comes up, and this is why I'm saying to trans people, just skip out on this. I know it's unfair that you might have to consider doing that, but I wouldn't advise you take the risk. And this is why. All these federations that are coming out, and they are saying publicly now, they can't guarantee your safety. Obviously, we talk, same for gay competitors. I wouldn't risk it. I just wouldn't risk it, particularly if you travel with your partners. Because none of these federations are guaranteeing your safety. And who are we guaranteeing the safety from? So I'll just say this. I think, obviously, the bare minimum when you go to an event is your safety should be guaranteed. You should not be worried about getting harmed. You shouldn't be worried about whether it's, fans or whatever. There should be a space you can go, dare I say, a safe space. And there should be security and everything else, right? Like, that's just, it goes without saying. If you're going to be a competitor, if you're going to be a fan, right? You're going to just, everyone's safety should be guaranteed. Nobody should be getting hurt at these events or even be scared of going to these events and being harmed. And when I go to events, obviously, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm not a very popular person on the internet, and so I've had a lot of people threaten me down the years. And even though I'd probably say 98% of it is just garbage, that 2% of credible threats will really fuck you up. It'll really give you a perspective on life that makes you jaded and bitter and distrustful and nervy, and you have to factor in all these additional considerations, and you want to close yourself off because is it worth getting murked over going to a fucking video games tournament? And it isn't. But here's the thing. When we talk about that, we're talking about fans. We're talking about people off the street. Sometimes we're talking about other broadcast talent. Like if it's me in the green room and my choking hands haven't got round a Dota player in 5 minutes, right? This isn't that. We can't guarantee your safety from the Saudi Arabian state. That's what we're saying with this. And this is why it's different. All the security in the world doesn't fix this. Because ultimately, if you're gay or bi or trans and you go and they don't like the look of you And that's ultimately what this boils down to, selective enforcement of their laws, because they don't come out and say, we're arresting you because you're trans, we're arresting you because you're gay. They say, oh, you're engaged in a deviant lifestyle, or you're cross-dressing, or whatever it is. And they say there's laws about that. You're being immodest. And they get you on that. And they get you on a technicality. And then they fucking torture you. And then they get confessions out of you. And we know this is happening. As per Human Rights Watch, this has happened in the recent years. This isn't ancient history. This isn't the turn of the century. So the issue is there is nobody that can stand up to the Saudi Arabian state and just say, could you not enforce the laws? We can't guarantee your safety from the police. That's a problem. And why that would ever be accepted or tolerated, I don't understand. And I don't understand how you could ever justify it. I don't understand how ESL could run something like GG for All, where there are trans women competitors, and grandstand on that issue, and then do this. So, as always, the Fudge man, James Fudge, over at the Esports Advocate, he reached out to every national federation, because what happened was, after we did Norway, you'll remember the coverage that we did about the Norwegian Esports Federation saying, well, no, we can't guarantee your safety, but Saudi good, Russia bad. We think Russia are worse than Saudi, actually. We think going to Russia is more dangerous, actually. And it's like, listen, I'm not saying Russia's cool for that stuff, neither, but I would go so far as to say I think you're safer in Russia than you are in Saudi if you're an openly gay person. Might be wrong. Show me some data, as always. But anyway, so they reached out because this is what happened. This is the eSport Canada founder, CEO Melissa Burns, said, we asked IESF, and they're obviously the international federation essentially presiding over the Esports World Cup. And they said, we've asked IESF to provide details about what measures and precautions will be in place to ensure the safety of our players. I've been told that an official release should be made available next week detailing their plans. Canada has a travel advisory in place, so participation is at the discretion of each player. Esports Canada cannot make any promises or guarantees, but we've asked IESF to provide an official statement regarding the measures, precautions they will put in place for competitors at their event. And remember, we're not talking about all competitors here. We're talking about gay competitors, bi competitors, trans competitors. That's what we're talking about. And so they reached out to every international esports federation that are going to be participating in the Esports World Cup through the IESF mechanism. And they asked 3 questions and said, do you guarantee the safety of participants in general? Do you allow gay transgender esports athletes to compete in your region? What extra precautions are you as a federation taking to ensure the safety of your citizens being sent to Riyadh? Now, I won't read you all of this. This would take a long time. And I did read them all on the Esports Gospel episode where I also touched on this subject. So you can go and listen there. But I will say, the Israeli Esports Association, they put out a brilliant statement where they said, yeah, look, we do guarantee the safety, and we are working with all the Israeli Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Culture, and we're working with a delegation from Riyadh because we don't have official diplomatic relations, and blah, blah, blah. And actually, look, put it this way, with everything that's going on in the world, Israeli competitors definitely have to think about this shit, because it's insane right now. We all know which way the noise is going on fucking social media, of course, not reflective of real life, but we already know that the Israeli competitors that attended last year, when it was Gamers 8, had to have a security detail. We know they were booed by the crowd, and ESL covered it up and pumped crowd noise through and muted the stream when the boos kicked in. So they had a pretty good statement about it, and obviously guaranteed the safety and said they're going to work with everybody. Now, it gets a little bit murky with the Slovak Esports Association who replied. Keep in mind, by the way, these are the only ones who replied. Most people did not A majority of federations did not respond to requests for comment. Slovak, they played it cagey and went, all of our players and participants above the age of 18 are legally responsible for their actions, and we as a federation can't force them to act against their will and safeguard them against their own decisions, which means there is no legal basis or mechanism based on which we can guarantee their safety, legally speaking. So, for example, someone can decide to go for a run, stumble, and fall into traffic and end up with a permanent or fatal injury. We can't plausibly limit people's choices in a way to prevent this from happening, as doing so would be a violation of basic human rights. No one's asking you to tell your delegation of fucking athletes to not play in traffic. That's not what we're talking about. It would be sound advice. But I would say what we want you to do is be able to say, look, we're not going to let we can guarantee the Saudi Arabian state won't arrest any of the competitors for immutable traits of their personality and their identity. And you can't say that because that would be a lie, because you can't guarantee that. Then you scroll down to the Belgian Esports Federation, and they said, we don't make any difference between any of our Belgian citizens. We're in close contact with the embassy, and we do guarantee the safety of everyone in our delegation. So, thumbs up for the Belgians and the Israelis there. We allow LGBTQIA+, they've gone the full American route on it, to participate in all of our qualifications without any discrimination. That's the way we see it in Belgium. We even have a Commission on Ethics and Integrity, which will be triggered in case of any infringements of such matters. So fair enough. All right. The Alliance of Electronic Sports of Montenegro, they are, as the kids would say, they just glazed it. They said, last year we were guests for a week in Riyadh at the Global Esports Federation World Championship, and I see no reason to worry about our players because the hospitality and approach to the host is the highest possible level. Honestly, we can't wait for this year's World Gaming Championship, the WEC 16 IESF, and to see all the potential Saudi Arabia can offer. I think we can learn a lot from them regarding the promotion of the country, especially through gaming and esports industries. Our players felt safe and protected at all competitions, and we returned from everywhere full of positive impressions and with great experiences. Yeah, #ad. And, look, okay, well, how many of your players fall under the labels that are the ones that are at risk? Not going to answer that, of course. So fair enough. The Kazakh Cybersport Federation just said, we don't prohibit anyone and we do not provide guarantees. Okay. Very cool. The Iraqi Esports Federation. This one is outrageous because if I understand it correctly, they're just saying you'll be fine as long as you don't act gay, right? So correct me if I've misinterpreted that. But they say normally it's totally safe for sure to participate. The only one concern about gays or trans is if they are not acting as they should be or announcing that in public, it will be fine too. So that is just don't be gay or trans while you're in Saudi, I guess. It's like, what is this farce, guys? What is this farce? Somebody, by the way, was like, a journalist has asked us a question about, fuck it. Just tell them, stop being gay. When are you going to learn, gays? Just fucking stop. Just stop doing it. It's only a couple of weeks. Can't be bloody turn off the gay for fucking 2 weeks. What's wrong with you? So that was their well-thought-out response. Now, the important one, obviously, is from the IESF. And I want to see if you can notice what little sleight of hand trickery they've done here with this. The IESF recognizes and appreciates the recent concerns voiced by members of the public and media regarding athlete safety at the upcoming WEC, it's World Esports Cup 24 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We want to reassure the general public and everybody in attendance that Saudi Arabia is a safe and inclusive destination for athletes from diverse backgrounds, regardless of their religion, gender, nationality, or ethnicity, both now and in the future. Now, I want to see if you can spot the trick. They've just left out any mention of sexuality and trans status, which was the whole point of the exercise in the first place. They've just not said that. They're like, listen, whatever your gender, whatever your religion, whatever your nationality or your ethnicity, yeah, you've not mentioned sexuality in there, mate. Could you clarify gender a little bit? No? All right. So they are just brazenly saying, listen, if you're gay or trans, it could be a problem. And we've got people like Sam Matthews out there. Long live esports. No, let's not long live this version of esports, which is becoming inherently exclusionary. You shouldn't have to make a choice to miss out on a life-changing prize money tournament because you're afraid that if you went there because you're gay or trans, you could be arrested or flogged or, whatever the fuck. It just shouldn't be that way. And equally, you shouldn't have to, you shouldn't have to think about that component to it, because you're not going to be comfortable, are you? And you have to be comfortable to compete at the highest level and everything. It's just nonsense. So no, not long live this version of esports, actually. It fucking sucks. It really sucks. There's a lot of people affected by this. A lot of people that are going to have to guess I can't go. And I've seen, actual examples of people that have sort of come out and said, yeah, actually, I'd like to compete, but I just don't know about it. I don't know if it's worth the risk. But yeah, I just think it's a real shame. And I think it's sad to see so many people that are respectable figureheads in the community kind of endorse this sort of stance and say, see, it's fine. And I think the worst part about it is they always say the same thing, because I talk about it with people privately, and they always say this. They go, listen, the Saudis know it would be a disaster if they were to arrest or do anything negative towards any gay or trans competitors that are coming to our tournaments. We can guarantee that it wouldn't happen. And then I always say the same thing. What about the people who live there, though? What about the fans? What about, say some gay fans want to see a gay player at a tournament? Because, it's nice. It's like a representation thing. Can you guarantee their safety? Why would you want to make exceptions for people that are attending your tournaments and then not fucking address the fact that the people who live in Saudi Arabia have to live under these tyrannical rules? And it's like, oh, yeah, but Rich, one step at a time. I don't know, my entire life, I've been seeing these stupid fucking incremental steps that always seem to get fucking rolled back, and it's just so fucking stupid. For context, in my lifetime, and actually later than you would think, we had a law in Britain called Section 28, Clause 28. And again, I remember going on protests about this as well, back when I was a proper lefty, and I used to go marching in the streets. And basically, Section 28 was brought in by the religious right in Britain, and it came in the late 80s. And basically what it said was that you couldn't promote homosexuality in schools. But, right, there's a lot baked into that. Because, first of all, the gayest person I know doesn't promote homosexuality. Do you know what I mean? One of the most bigoted beliefs is that because gay people don't breed, they recruit. And it's an old prejudice that you'll hear a million times. They all say the fucking same thing. They always go, they're out there recruiting them, the gays. They tell the kids, be gay, it's great. And that's how we recruit the gays, because we don't make our own gays. So gays would be extinct if we didn't recruit gays. It's just fucking nonsense. No, but I've never, ever, ever in my life ever seen a gay person, go to somebody who's not gay. Oh, listen, have you thought about being gay? It's wicked, It just doesn't happen, because it's meant. Just think about it for a moment, logically. And anyway, so this created a culture of fear in the UK, where basically, because there was so much open to interpretation of what would constitute promotion, this created a class of teachers who were like gay teachers. That, you know, and again, we had a couple of gay teachers when I was at school, and they were very obviously gay, and they just lied. They just sort of lied and like, oh, I'm out with a wife tonight, and you're like, yeah. You know, but and obviously, you know what kids are like. They're precocious, and they're going like, "Fucking you're gay though, sir. You're gay." No, certainly not, certainly not. So you know, it's just ridiculous. And so there was like teachers like genuinely living in fear of being outed because they were afraid it would impact on their whole livelihood. They'd have to resign. They'd be accused of this gay recruitment myth. And so you had that. There was also like people that were like worried, you know, that like the big argument for it that was made in government when it was brought in was not only will it stop gays recruiting, it will stop the gays, the early version of Globo Homo, undermining marriage, the institution of marriage, and it will stop pedophiles, because the other favourite form of homophobic bigotry, of course, is that, you know, if you're gay, you're more likely to fuck kids or something, you know, as if straight people haven't been doing that for fucking, you know, the entire time. So anyway, the crazy thing is that didn't get repealed in Britain, I want to say, until like 2003 in England. Think about that, right? In my lifetime, in 2003, there was a piece of legislation voted in, overwhelmingly by the government, that ultimately reinforced all of this bigotry. So when I see that, I think, you know, look, I can understand people wanting to protect children. I can understand people believing a classroom is a place for neutrality and the teachers' lives really shouldn't come into the classroom. And again, even, you know, all of the teachers I've known, they didn't do that back then. You know, I'm not saying they do it now, but, you know, we've seen some TikTok videos, whatever. So I can understand where it comes from. But unfortunately, it also reinforces a lot of bigotries and prejudices and forces people to lead double lives. And so we're doing it again here in esports. We're essentially letting an entity take over all of esports, where it's like, we're wink, wink. No, we're totally fine. Wink, wink, you can be gay and trans. Don't worry about it. But, you know, just dial it down. Just tone it down. And we can't guarantee your safety, but you're probably safe. And it's like, that's just fucking wild, you know? Just wild to me that we're going to do it in something ostensibly as progressive and modernist and futurist as esports. And it just makes me really sad that people are co-signing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to co-sign that.